Hello and welcome back to the Everyday Analyst. Today, we are taking our first hands-on step into SQL by creating a database and writing our first query. But before we dive in, let's quickly understand some essential terms like database, schema, and tables, so that when we start writing queries in pgAdmin, you know exactly what's happening. Let's get into it. So you can think of database like a drive on your computer, just like your C or D drive. It's a storage container for data. Inside this drive, we have schemas, which are like folders that help organize data logically. Finally, inside each schema, we have tables, which are like Excel or CSV files that store structured data in rows and columns. In addition to tables, we have views, which are like saved SQL queries that behave like virtual tables without storing any extra data. And a few other things which we will worry about some other day. So understanding this structure is important because every SQL query that we write, we will interact with the database, schema, and table in some way. Now that we know how data is organized, the next question is, what kind of data are we storing? Numbers, text, dates, or some other kind of data type. So in SQL, we need to specify the type of data each column will hold. Let's take a look at some of the most common data types in PostgreSQL before we create our first SQL table. So the first category is text data. Within that, we have varchar for short variable length text like names and email. Text is for longer text like product description or comments. The next category is numeric data. Integer is for whole numbers like age or ID. Numeric is used for precise financial values like salaries or prices. This ensures exact calculations without rounding error. We can specify the precision and scale while defining a numeric value. Then we have double precision, probably not suitable for financial data, but it is helpful when high speed matters more than absolute precision. We could store data like temperature in this. Boolean data. Boolean data stores just a simple true or false values. It is often used for flags like maybe is the customer active or is the store active, true or false. Next, we have date and time category data types. Within that, some of the most commonly used are timestamp and date. Timestamp stores date and time, both, and date is only for date values. And some other useful data types are UUID for unique identifiers, and JSON allows storing unstructured data, great for metadata and API responses. So understanding these data types will help us structure our tables correctly. But before we start creating a table, let's look at a dummy dataset created for the purpose of this video and think about how we would define the columns for this dataset. There you go. Here's a sneak peek at the dataset we'll be working with. Each column represents a different type of data. I want you to pause and take a moment to think what data type should each of these columns have. For example, the ID column, should it be an integer or something else? What about salary? Should it be a double precision type or is there a better option? Pause the video for a few seconds, think through it, and once you're ready, let's dive into pgAdmin and start creating our first database, schema, table, and also run our first SQL query. Are you ready? Alright, so once you are ready, you can launch your pgAdmin 4. And on the left hand side, you will see Object Explorer. You can right click on the servers in that section and register a new server. In my case, I'll just go with the name localDB. You can choose anything that you want. Once you enter a name, just go to the connection section. Here, you need to type in localhost because we are using a locally installed database. And the port number, I went with the default port number while installation, and also the username is default. Once that is done, you can give your password that you have created. And you can also enable the option to save the password. That's it. You can just click save and the connection is established. If you expand this local DB now, you have databases within that. In the databases, you have some default databases already available, but however, let's go ahead and create our own database. So right click, create a new database. So the database name that I will go with is SQL Mastery. You can choose a different database name if you want to. Give it a name, just click save. That's it. So database has been created. And we already know within database, there are schemas, and in the schemas, we will have tables. There are some default schemas, but however, let's create our own schema now. Right click on the schemas, create a new schema. Here I will go with the name Analytics DB. You can choose a different one if you want to. Click save. Okay, if I expand Analytics DB now, there are a lot of things inside that, but our focus is on tables. If I expand tables, there is nothing in here because we haven't added anything yet. So right click on tables and create a new table. So since the data that we sneak peeked into is mostly like employees data, I'll just give the name employees table. This would be the name, and the columns need to be defined in the column section. So I'll just go ahead and add a few columns which we will input all the details into. So the first column we had was ID, which could be of type integer because it has values ranging from 1 to 10, and maybe in future it will keep growing. Next we have full name. That can be of type character varying. So I want you to be very cautious when you're selecting character varying or any other data type to not choose the one with the square brackets here, because this is for an array of varchar types. So if you choose this one, it's a single character string that is expected. So the full name maximum length is probably 40. So I'll just input this. Then we have email. I'll go with the same options or the same settings as full name. Character varying, max length 40. And next we have age. Age is again an integer, but this time let's go with small int because it most likely varies between 0 and 100. After age we have salary. We want to be very particular about salary. I mean, we want to be very precise or accurate in terms of decimals as well in salary. So you can choose numeric data type, and within numeric, the max salary can probably go to up to 12 digits, but I will give it a length of 14. That is 12 digits before the decimal, and then I will give 2 digits after the decimal. After salary, we have is active. This is a Boolean value. It's a true or false. Finally, we have created date, which is of type date. That's it. One thing I also want to use is the ID column should not be null. So I'll just enable this option and then click save. There you go. Our table has been created. If you expand this, you have the columns section, and we can see all the columns that we have created: ID, full name, email, age, salary are all available here, along with some default columns which you can ignore. So currently this doesn't have any data. Just right click on this table and choose the import or export data option. Here I have a file that is already available in my downloads folder. I will link this file in the description. You can also probably download and use the same file to test it out. So the format of this file is CSV, and you can find the encoding from the file properties, which is UTF-8, or you can just leave this blank. Next, go to the option setting. Here, enable the header option. By default, I guess this is already enabled, but do check if this is enabled or not, so that we can skip the first row in our file that has column headings. The delimiter is comma for CSV files. And that's it. All the other settings are as it is. We can click OK. This has created a new process and we can see the status as completed. Now we know that our data is inserted into the table. To just validate this, you can right click on the table and under the scripts you have select script. We want to select data from our table. So use this. So this will open up a new window, which is our SQL editor window. Within that, a SQL query has been inserted already for us. So what it is essentially doing is selecting these columns from this schema and this table. So usually people, if you already have some experience with SQL, you might be thinking there should also be a database name here. That is not necessary because your connection already has the database name, which is SQL Master in my case. So when we say from Analytics DB and employee table, it will look into the SQL Master database. To run this query, you can use the button here, or also an alternate way is to run using the shortcut F5. If we run this, we can see that the output has 10 rows. You have successfully inserted data into a table and also you ran your first SQL query in this whole playlist. Congratulations on that. And guess what? I'll be covering everything from SQL basics to advanced techniques right here on this channel. So hit that subscribe button and join me on this journey to master SQL. See you in the next video. If you liked the video, like, comment, share and subscribe.